Hey there, basement dwellers. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag. This is my mother's basement, and I just escaped it to go see Doctor Strange with a bunch of my friends from around Vancouver. Basically, Izzy and Mac from Something Witty Productions, those are the guys who make Sword Art Online Abridged. They called me up to go see a movie with them in Takahata 101, so it was a whole bunch of top tier nerds going out to the toppest tier of nerd movies this year. And of course, in that scenario, we had a blast. It's always a lot of fun seeing movies with those guys. I saw Shin Godzilla with them, although unfortunately I wasn't able to blog about it. But I didn't just enjoy this movie because of the people I went to see it with. I enjoyed the hell out of seeing Doctor Strange because Doctor Strange is the best Marvel movie, hands down, since Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel, they have a pretty sure thing going with their movies these days. I mean, they put out a new Captain America, they put out a new Thor even, and everybody's going to see it and everybody's going to love it because that's just how the Marvel universe works at this point. We know pretty much for a fact that every movie they put out is going to be at least pretty good. But they don't rest on their laurels. They keep trying to make big franchises out of obscure properties like Guardians of the Galaxy. And whenever they do, it seems like they up their game. It seems like they try really, really hard to impress audiences and prove the viability of these new unproven properties. I mean, they did it all the way back with Iron Man. Before the Iron Man movie, nobody knew who Iron Man was. I was like the only kid my age who ever watched the Iron Man TV show on Fox. I liked it a little bit more than X-Men or Spider-Man, which made me a complete weirdo. Now, like, you can't get enough of Iron Man, no matter where you go. He's everywhere. Tony Stark is everywhere. And that's because they gave it their all and they really tried to capture what makes the character unique and interesting while also making a damn good movie. And the same thing goes for Guardians of the Galaxy. They took that quirky brand of humor, a little bit of pop culture, and a whole lot of high concept sci-fi rigmarole and turned it into one of the most fun adventure movies that I've seen in years. Probably a better Star Wars than even Star Wars Episode 7 was. Heck, maybe even better Star Wars than Star Wars Episode 6. Hashtag controversial statement. Guardians of the Galaxy was a ton of fun. And so was Doctor Strange. I mean, it's weird to say that the weakest of these like side project Marvel movies was Ant-Man, because Ant-Man was also really good. Really, really good. But yeah, Doctor Strange was just striking. And it wasn't just because of good writing, which is normally the case with these movies. Like, most of the time it's just they're well written and they have a good actor. But Doctor Strange is probably the best directed Marvel superhero movie to date. With the possible exception of the Captain America movies, particularly The Winter Soldier, because those were very tight spy thrillers. This goes in a different direction, and I would argue a much more challenging direction than a down-to-earth spy thriller with a lot of beat-em-up segments and stuff like that. This is a high fantasy adventure with magical elements encroaching on the real world. And in the same way that the original Superman movie aimed to make you believe that a man could fly, this movie goes out of its way to try and make you believe that magic is real. And it does a really good job of it. A lot of the magical effects in the movie, a lot of the warping of reality is presented in this bizarre, trippy 3D kaleidoscope style where basically the environment around the characters unfolds itself infinitely into, like I said, a 3D kaleidoscope. And new pictures emerge from this 3D convergence of objects. It's insane to behold this effect. Your brain doesn't quite know what to make of it at first. And that's especially true if you see this movie in 3D. There's not a lot of movies that I would say see this in 3D. I'd say that for any Leica movie because of just the spectacle of seeing these very obviously toys brought to life. But for this movie, it is so much more effective at just breaking your mind when you see these tessellated landscapes in 3D. It turns from something that's very visually impressive when you see it in the trailer to something that is just incomprehensible. And that's how magic should be, right? It should be something where you sort of understand it intuitively. You understand that this is reality folding itself around a concept. It's interesting because the two things that come to mind when you see this effect in action are Inception, particularly with New York City folding in over itself over and over again. That's very, very, very reminiscent of the first big dream scene in Inception. But then beyond that, the folding in of reality in on itself over and over again, especially when Doctor Strange goes on his journey through the astral plane, is so reminiscent of Interstellar, except that this is a good movie, and that elevates these effects even more and more. I mean, not to say that Inception wasn't a good movie, but Interstellar definitely was not in a lot of ways. I mean, I enjoyed parts of it, don't get me wrong, but it was more of a visual tour de force than anything else. Christopher Nolan is a great visual director, and I'm really glad to see somebody who has an actually good story to tell cribbing some of his visual ideas and using them in new ways. The plot of this movie is really strong. It basically follows this character arc of Dr. Hugo Strange, who is a brilliant surgeon. He ends up in a car accident one day as a result of his arrogance. There's nothing more indicative of arrogance in the modern era than a man, texting and driving, and being that in like a high-speed sports car. He goes off the road, he loses the use of his hands, and he spends like half the movie trying to get his hands back through any means necessary. Eventually, this quest leads him to the Ancient One, a sorcerer older than anyone can possibly place, but from ancient Celtic times. That's something that some people are pissed about because the Ancient One used to be Tibetan, but this movie's got to play in China, so they gotta skirt around the fact that Tibet exists. They move things to Nepal, and yeah. The Ancient One shows Hugo Strange the true nature of reality, opening up like these worlds, these infinite possible worlds of magical energy. And from there, the story just unfolds in crazy, exciting directions. And it's not just used as like the hook of the story. The thing about all of this magic is that it's used very effectively to create really, really insanely cool action scenes. You've got scenes with people teleporting around, scenes with gravity flipping on its side. I mean, like, the hallway sequence in Inception has nothing on some of the stuff in this movie. And obviously a lot of what they did was not like practical effects like in Inception. So in that sense, it's less impressive. But like the way that the scene is constructed, the way that gravity keeps flipping around, and the way that each character sort of takes control of that in order to fight is really, really cool. This movie has maybe the best Marvel villain this side of Loki. The writing of this character... Fuck, I'm so bad with names. Evil wizard guy. It's like Chakan or something. he doesn't have a very memorable name, and I know that might sound like a knock against him, but I just think of him as Mads Mikkelsen, because he's played by Mads Mikkelsen. And if you don't know who Mads Mikkelsen is, you need to watch Hannibal, because Mads Mikkelsen is a fucking triumph of acting. This dude knows how to be creepy. This dude knows how to be cold and calculated and manipulative, and he has a hell of a screen presence as a villain. There are some really, really strong beats between him and Doctor Strange, and between him and the Ancient One. He provides a foil to Doctor Strange in a way, because they're both people who reject the rules, but Doctor Strange can ultimately see the greater good, whereas Mads Mikkelsen becomes obsessed with the good of himself, and views what he thinks is best for him as being best for the rest of the world, whereas Doctor Strange eventually turns around and realizes that he has to do things for other people. So their character arcs work together in that sense, and they play off of each other in fun ways. Nothing to write home about in the grand scheme of action movie villains. Marvel is still a little weak in that regard, but goddamn, is Mads Mikkelsen ever good in this role? In fact, the entire cast is pretty fantastic, especially Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. I mean, Chinese theater appeal aside, the fact of the matter is, I don't think that there is anybody who could have portrayed the Ancient One quite as well as Tilda Swinton, because Tilda Swinton is basically already an alien. She exists outside the bounds of conventional acting and outside the bounds of conventional logic. So she really, really works as the Ancient One in ways that I don't think most other actresses or actors really could. And likewise, I don't think that anybody could have portrayed Hugo Strange better than Benedict Cumberbatch. Those two actors are just perfectly cast. Sherlock trained Benedict Cumberbatch for this role in a lot of ways. And God, does he ever deliver on Strange's arrogance, on his eventual humility, on the transition between the two. He's got such a great sense of humor and sense of comedic timing. This whole movie has a very, very strong sense of humor. There were a few jokes that just had the whole audience laughing, which is not the case for all of these Marvel movies. And I would say that the writing here is a few steps cleverer than the standard Marvel movie. There are a few very interesting takes on comedic archetypes, and one of the best characters is a guy who stonewalls every joke, Wong, who, as somebody who likes to stonewall his friends, Wong is just delightful. This whole movie is a lot of fun. While the action scenes are really cool. I mean, I just got through one action scene. There's the one where they're turning gravity upside down. There's the action scene where they're in the hospital as astral forms, and Doctor Strange has to fight a ghost off while helping out with his own open heart surgery. There's this insane fight within a mirrored dimension with New York City folding in on itself. I mean, like, as cool as that was in Inception, all they did was show the cityscape folding in on top of the cityscape. Here, you've got infinite tesseracts of cityscape unfolding into each other. And Doctor Strange and the Ancient One and Mads Mikkelsen flying through this area, manipulating it, and just coming to blows with each other and trying to fight. It's incredible to watch. It is so cool. And it's not even the coolest action scene in the movie. The coolest action scene in the movie comes right at the end. Without going into huge spoilers, everything starts going backwards because reasons. And oh god, it is just so incredible, the things that they do in this scene, the way that they play off explosions coming in backwards, off of things that have been knocked away being pulled back. It's a disaster in reverse with fights going on in the middle of it, and it is so good, and it leads into one of the strongest villain confrontations in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Doctor Strange versus Dormammu at the end of this movie is clever. It plays off of a lot of different stuff from within the script, and it shows off. While Doctor Strange can kick some ass with magic, it shows off that his greatest strength is his ability to think through problems in an unconventional way. God, that was really fun to watch. But every action scene in this is fun to watch for its own reasons. There's a lot of really proper kung fu in this movie, which, man, it's been a long time since I've seen a good action comedy with good kung fu, you know? Jackie Chan's still got it, but he doesn't put out movies like he used to. And this had a very Jackie Chan sensibility to the fights. There was a lot of slapstick, basically, with how a lot of the fights played out. It's hard to say, again, without going into direct spoilers for some of these jokes, because they're strong jokes, but the fights are very playful. You can tell that everybody making this movie really liked the movie, really liked the script, and was having a fun time while they were making it. And you can't say that for a lot of things. I mean, you could say that for most of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's one thing it has going for it over DC. But it really shines through here. I know that the Marvel movies get a lot of knocks for being corporate cash cows that are just churned out by committees, but Doctor Strange is really fun. You can tell it was a labor of love from a lot of the people who worked on it. And I think that if you go see it, you will have a heck of a fun time. So I recommend going to see Doctor Strange. I am giving it a silver medal rating. There's a lot of visual inventiveness to this film. There is a strong narrative structure at play, and there are some very strong performances. The only thing that I would say that it's really lacking in is its score, which is the case with all of these Marvel movies. It's very safe and basic, and there's not much that's really memorable. Tony Zhu from Every Frame Painting did a video, which I'll pop up here, that I recommend watching, about how all of the Marvel movie soundtracks are the same. But yeah, that is one thing that stands out as being a little less good than the rest of the film, and a few of the one-liners fall a little flat. But overall, it's a very fun movie. It's a very smart movie compared to a lot of other blockbusters. And I think that you will have a lot of fun if you watch it. So I highly recommend watching Doctor Strange. I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.